Welcome everybody to another Q&A, and this Q&A I'm really looking forward to, as all of them, because it's a time when I can just get off my computer and say hi to you all. It's really fun. I get a lot of value out of it, and I hope that you guys do as well. And just throwing a wave to you fine folks who are joining. Thanks for joining, and also please let me know what country you're coming from or what city. It's always fun to know what areas of the world you guys are joining in. And by the way, I didn't mention this before, but my goal is to hopefully continue doing these while my area of the world, which would be Eastern Canada, is in a type of lockdown. And as soon as that is lifted, which of course, with the wisdom of our province's medical and government, who knows when that will be, but it could be a couple of weeks, could be who knows. But I'll be here doing these at the same time, except Sunday. I'll take Sunday off. Scripture lectures, Mexico. Welcome, mi amigo. And let me scroll through here. Vienna, Austria. Thank you, Andrea. It's so good to see you. Ireland. Yes, I have yet to join Ireland. Sorry, I haven't visited there yet, but I severely want to. Austria is in week 6 of lockdown. Yes, and I'm not sure how many. I think we have a bit less than that. I think ours is week 4 or 5. If I recall. Yes, and Sanjeev from Delhi, India, welcome. Costa Rica, excellent. Hey everybody. Soulful Lens, hi Mark, I live in Calgary, yes. Hopefully all things are well in Calgary, relatively speaking. Alessandra, welcome. BC, Canada. Hey everybody, it's good to see you all. Quispam Sis, Paul Wood, good to see you. It's very good to see you, Paul. Hope all is well. And Quispam is, I would say, I don't know, maybe 20 kilometers away from where I am. Hello from Sweden. RT Raj, hi Mark, I'm from India. I love all my Indian friends. I love India, and I desperately want a real chai masala right now. And Sweden, welcome. Lithuania, I love Lithuania. And so thank you everyone for joining. And today has to be a little bit short, mainly because today is my errand day. And at our house we try to do I'm the designated driver. So in my family, whenever there's a need, we combine the groceries and what has to be done, these things, all in one trip. So usually we're hoping to only get it once a week. And I have a big list today. Okay, so Quebec, they call me Pickle. Welcome. By the way, if anyone wants to know of a great place to visit after COVID, go to Quebec City. And Old Quebec is a charming, charming place. And of course, Quebec City in general is quite interesting. So that's a definite destination, especially for my American friends who are listening, because it's, I don't know, usually you guys would probably go to, Niagara Falls or whatever, and probably Toronto. But Quebec City is a real gem. Okay, I need a camera. How do I start from the bottom? This is Scripture Lectures asks. And what I would advise is that if you feel that you have really gotten a lot out of your Android or iPhone, and you want to get a DSLR or a mirrorless, well, the entry level, let me just back up. Any camera that you buy today, as in 2020, it's going to be amazing. And that's the really encouraging thing about how fast technology has been turning, and the engine of progress for technology has been extraordinary. So if you have budget, I would suggest a Fujifilm X series camera, and they start maybe at $400 or something like that. However, Canon has a really good starter DSLR kit called the Rebel T series. Now, there's a whole bunch of T series Rebels, and what you would do is you would simply choose the kit that's within your budget. And there's nothing wrong with the Rebel camera. I've used them because I've done courses teaching people how to use them. And I would say just get the beginner kit. And by the way, if anyone is starting out in photography, the kit lens, or sometimes like the Canon Rebel comes, you can get an option of both the, what is it? I think it's the 18 to 55, and I think there's a 55 to 200 if I recall. And you can get that in the kit for one price. And kit lenses are always cheaper if you buy them, or sorry, these lenses are always cheaper if you buy them in the kit rather than buying them separately. And so also if you want to tell us in the comment section what your budget is, I might be able to help you further. If not, then just go for the Canon Rebel series, or what I would advise is the any of the Fuji X series that are within your budget. Excellent question. Okay, Cinderbug asks, how do you shoot tethered without using a cable? I shoot Nikon and have Lightroom 6. Yeah, so the tethering software for Nikon is called Nikon Connect, and it's an app, and it doesn't connect directly to Lightroom. So what you would do is when you use Nikon Connect, you download it from, if you're using, of course, if you're using an iPhone, you would get it from the normal App Store and Google Play if you have an Android. And what happens is that when you tether, the images go within the container in your iPhone or Android of that app. That's my understanding. I'll be honest, I haven't used the app yet, even though I have it. But this is my understanding. And then you would export then to your photos collection and then to Lightroom. It sounds like a really roundabout way to do it. But I do have to say that I don't know that for sure because I've yet to use the Nikon Connect app. So anyway, that's what I think is the best route for you, is just to download the app and get to know it and see what its capabilities are. Now, if you had a Fujifilm, I could tell you inside out how to use that because I use the Fujifilm app all the time for tethering. Okay, very good question. Andrea, any suggestions for concert photography, especially in smaller venues? Yes. Andrea, I don't know what type of camera you have, but there are newer cameras, especially DSLR cameras, that have something called highlight priority exposure control. And I do know that it's in the Nikon D780 because I have a Nikon D780. And what happens is really clever, is that if you've ever been to a concert, and pretty much everyone has been to one, you know that the main either actor, if it's a stage production, or if it's a music concert, the main musician or actor, or actors or musicians, are lit with spotlights. And these spotlights are very strong. And what they do is they create what we call low-key lighting. And low-key lighting essentially is a really strong and graphic and fine art style look on one side of the face when the other side of the face is dark. And in fact, the rest of the stage is fairly dark anyway. So how do you deal with that kind of exposure craziness with a normal, aperture priority and, auto exposure? And this technique, or this button that you press called highlight priority, is perfect for that type of concert venue. Now, if you do not have that option on your camera, then you're going to be doing aperture priority, lowest f-stop, auto ISO, and take your exposure compensation down to -2. Yes, that is a heavy reduction in brightness. But that's just an experiment. And then what I want you to do is take a picture of the musician or the actor. And if their face has, or their skin has no blown out white aspects, then that -2 is perfect. If you feel that it's a little bit too dark, then go to -1 or -1.3. Essentially what I'm saying is that you start out at a practice -2 in your exposure compensation. And if you like the looks, you stay there. Now this is entirely dependent on how the lighting technician illuminates your concert venue. If it's in a stage production where there's backgrounds, then they will be more evenly lit than a music concert. Okay, so once again, when you're doing stage or music concerts, aperture priority, lowest f-stop number, high, auto ISO, and you're most likely going to be in the minus side for your exposure compensation button. And that is a minus and a plus button. Okay? Hope that helped. For those of you who just joined, I'd love for you guys just to shout out what country or city you're from, just for my own benefit. It's fun to see. Okay, Enlightened Heart. That's a fantastic name, by the way, for your Instagram. What's the best camera to go for if I want to get into professional photography? Nikon or Canon? How's that for a long drink of water? It's a tough call. They're both excellent. And they both cater to professionals perfectly well. I will say this. If I had, what would you say, a scale, and I had a Nikon and a Canon, they're both the exact same, what would you say, level of professional capacity, I would have to choose Canon only because I'm also a filmmaker. And Canon has done well, and it's known well for its filmmaking abilities. Now, I do have a Canon Nikon D780, and it's actually really well tuned for videography and for filmmaking. So that decision-making process is almost not even valid anymore because Nikon has gotten so good. However, it is true that in the world of DSLR, Canon is a little bit more respected with regards to its video capacity. They're both totally excellent. If you have no plans on becoming a filmmaker or video, then it's a flip of a coin. Essentially, what you're going to do is look for the best deal. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. Okay? Great question. Okay. Cinderbug, have you used Camera Plus? Yes, I have. I looked up videos on how to manually control ISO, aperture, and shutter speed on the iPhone. It would be handy to be able. So Cinderbug, this is a problem that I haven't been able to figure it out, but I can't, for longer questions in that question mark button, it doesn't answer them. Or I mean, it doesn't fully give me the ability to see. So what I'm going to do is assume I know the end to your to what you're asking. Camera Plus, and also a few other apps, by the way. Lightroom CC camera also allows this, where you can actually dial in the ISO, the aperture, and the shutter speed yourself. Now, why would you ever want to do that? Well, there are certain times when you'd want to mimic the effects of a DSLR, and that's why when you're shooting with an iPhone or an Android, the ability to use those manual adjustable exposure triangle aspects are quite handy. However, I will freely admit I've never used them, mainly because when I myself am doing iPhone photography, all I care about, to be honest, is exposure. And I can do that easily with the swipe of the screen. And what I do is I'll let the camera just take care of the rest. I'll let the camera do, essentially it's on full auto. And I've gotten great results from that. And the reason why this is the case is because any scenario when I'd be using manually adjusted aspects of the exposure triangle, like for example shutter or ISO or aperture on an iPhone, Well, I'm probably just going to switch to my Fuji or my Nikon instead. And I just allow, the iPhone to be a very fast tool for getting the shot that I want when I'm doing travel or street photography. Camera Plus, it's a very good app, by the way, and I don't use it anymore, mainly because the Lightroom CC controls in the camera are so good that I've switched entirely to Lightroom CC for taking pictures. Okay, I hope that answered your question. Actually, it didn't answer your question, which I apologize for. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Just going to scroll here, everybody. 1 second. Okay, here we go. Hi, I recently ordered for a macro extension tube. Any advice or tips on that? I also tagged you on a photo of mine for your advice and feedback. Okay, I haven't checked my Instagram or Facebook or anything yet from yesterday and today, so I'm sure I'll find that tag. Now, the macro extension tube is the only advice that you need, actually, because it's really self-explanatory, is that you have to be in manual focus. Now, it's not that you have to be, because if you bought the macro extension tube from the same company as your camera, then you would have electronic communication between the lens and the camera body. However, macro extension tubes also come from third-party companies, and that may be what you have, so that's why I advise manual focus, especially because even if you could do autofocus, it's still more accurate when you're that close to your subject to do manual focus, okay? Otherwise, you're all set. So just, use your normal aperture priority. I do suggest you go f8 or higher, say, for example, f11 or f16. And the reason being is that when you're at that really close distance using either a macro extension tube or a macro lens, you're going to find the slice of depth of field very narrow. What that means is if you shoot with a low f-stop number, meaning the lens is wide open, the minutest amount of object in the picture space is going to be sharp. Everything else is going to be blurry. Now, this is good for fine art blurry shots, fine art shots when you want this silky blur. However, if you're looking for more realistic images at macro settings, you're going to have to be at f8, f11, f16 in order to have enough depth of field sharpness throughout the picture space. Okay? I love talking about those things like macro. Great question. Hey everybody, I'm just giving you guys a wave. If you've just joined, we're doing a Q&A session. And this one has to be cut short a little bit because I do have to do some family errands. That guy James, welcome. From Wales, Enlightened Heart, excellent. Yusuf, now Yusuf, it looks like you request to be live in the video, I'd welcome that. If you did it by mistake, just press decline, okay? And that sometimes happens. People press it by mistake. However, by the way, if you ever want to join me live, then no problem. There's 2 icons right at the bottom, 2 happy faces. And if you tap on that, what I see on my end is the ability or the request to come live on this stream to ask your question. And I totally welcome that. However, if you guys ever press it by mistake, just press decline, okay? Okay. Hey Mark, Yusuf says, hey Mark, I've been trying to join you on the live video, but it looks like the pop-ups are blocked. Anyway, I wanted to show you some hard settings I couldn't get on my Canon, like NTSC PAL on video. Oh, I see, okay. By the way, for anyone who doesn't know what NTSC and PAL is, when you're setting up video, you're going to be confronted with frame rate and also, do you want NTSC or PAL? Now, sometimes it's not spelled out as NTSC or PAL. Sometimes it's 25 frames per second versus 24 frames per second. 25 frames per second is what we call PAL, or PAL, and that is a European standard for video. And 24 frames per second and 30 frames per second is called NTSC, and that is the North American and Japanese. And I think most of the world is NTSC. Why does that matter? It doesn't ultimately matter so much because programs like YouTube and Facebook have built-in converters. So if you shoot at the wrong frame rate for video, those software automatically will look after you. But it's always best if you're in a certain country to set your video to the appropriate setting. So let me just say that again. If you're European and if you have a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, then you would set your frame rate to 25 and PAL, or PAL, okay? Now again, this is not critical because if you only just upload to YouTube, it really doesn't matter so much. The reason I say this is because if a local production company, let's just say you're in England, okay? And let's just say that you took a really cool video with your DSLR. Well, the local production company would prefer a PAL 25 frames per second than a 24, just because it's easier workflow for them. And the reason I know this is because I'm a video editor as well, and all the time I'm doing video frame rate conversions. If you live in North America, I think most of Asia, then NTSC 24 or 30 should be fine. And Yusuf, if that didn't answer your question, then feel free to ask a second part to that question. Okay, welcome. Good app to use, Lightroom. Yes, I love it. Makes you feel like in the older times. Yeah, so true. And wanted to say a big thank you. I found your YouTube videos really great for learning photography. Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. I need to post more on my YouTube. By the way, my YouTube page is Mark Hemmings Photography School, and you just have to search that. And I got a whole bunch of free stuff out there for you, and you could spend hours just learning photography from my YouTube page. Also, by the way, almost every single photo in my Instagram feed, and there's I think almost 2,000 photos, has a corresponding photo lesson. So if you if you're on your couch, you're bored of Netflix, then feel free to go through my Instagram photos from the past number of years, and each one has a little lesson for you on how to take better pictures. Okay, Boris Chava, welcome. Good to see you again. Pam, good to see you. Hey guys. When to use mode P, TV, AV, M, B on a Canon. Yes, okay, so just let me review. A lot of DSLRs and mirrorless have what I call MASP, and that's the MASP. M is for manual, A is for aperture priority, S is for shutter priority, and P is for program. Now Canon, for some reason, they were the only ones to have it a little bit different. TV actually is for shutter priority, and you may ask, why in the world did they do that? Well, it was a technical term called time value, and AV is aperture priority, by the way. And then of course we have program and manual. I'm just going to quickly go through each one, just because a lot of people may not even know what that means. Manual is full manual. You do everything in the exposure triangle yourself. You set up the aperture, you set up the shutter speed, you even go in to set up the ISO. Program is very similar to auto, by the way, and auto usually is signified by a green auto. That's AUTO. And P for program is called program auto, and that's almost identical, except you have a little bit more latitude. When you're in P mode, you actually have access to exposure compensation. That's really good. It means you are able to make your picture brighter or darker at your desire, okay? Now in full auto, you don't have that ability usually. It's just the camera takes it and you get what you get, okay? Now next, TV or shutter priority, you select the shutter, how fast the shutter opens and closes, and the camera will choose the appropriate f-stop or aperture. The exact opposite is true with aperture priority, and that would be AV for Canon and A for all the other companies. You choose the aperture, and the camera chooses the shutter speed. Now, what about B? What is B? Also T. A lot of people might want it not to be confused with TV. B is bulb, and T is time. And this is really good for those who are getting into long exposure work. And if you use B or T, you can actually keep your shutter open. And this usually almost never works in the daytime, but works really well in the evening, at night, or super early in the morning when it's really still a bit dark. Now, there is an exception. If you load up your lens with polarizers and ND filters, especially very long and very dark ND filters, you can certainly try out B or T in the daytime. But this is useful for people who want to get into waterfall photography. It's good, but it's really useful for astrophotography. You control how long the shutter's open. For example, the longest I've ever kept the shutter open on a camera is 6 hours. And this was to get star trails. And it was really cool. And I would just switch to B. And I had a shutter release cable because Fuji still allow for that. They have a little screw in on the shutter button. And I just kept it going for hours and hours and hours. And that's what the B is for. Okay? So I hope that helped. Yes, the Georgian language. That's awesome. Okay, welcome everybody. If you've just joined, we're doing a Q&A session. I'm going to have to cut it short this time, but I still love to get in as many questions as I can. Yusuf, thanks for answering, because my Canon 250D is famous by not being able to shoot 1080 24 since Canon removed it illogically. Oh, that's strange. But I can find 1080 25 on PAL format. Huh. Yusuf, I wonder if it's because now that is very strange. I've never heard that before. I'm curious as to whether your country is the same as European PAL format. And if so, there might be a European Union law, a strange law that doesn't allow for the North American frame rate called NTSC. And that would surprise me, but maybe Yusuf, if you could let me know what country you're from. I think you've told me before, but I forget. Pam, hello from Edmonton, Alberta. And also, I've been to Edmonton, and I thoroughly enjoy. By the way, for my American friends, come up to Canada when this is all over. We want to have you guys seeing our beautiful land, and there's great cities. By the way, greetings from Morocco. Okay. Yusuf, what I'll get you to do is a Google search, and I'd like you to type in, is Morocco on PAL or NTSC? And just find out what if Morocco is with the European standard or the North American standard. And let me know. I'm very curious. Okay. Oh, Aaron Sophia joined. Welcome, Aaron. It's so good to see you. I'm from Morocco, and the Canon 250D is the European reference of the American Rebel. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Cinderbug, will there be weekly photo challenges in the DCM Facebook group? Good question, Cinderbug. I'm not sure because I don't run that group. I am part of it, but the company that owns that group has moderators, and they do stuff like that, and hopefully soon, because I know they've done them in the past. And also, Cinderbug, if you within the Facebook group, if you ever want to get my attention, just do that at Mark Hemmings Photography, and I can certainly help you out easily, directly. Because I do, and by the way, I do go through the Digital Camera Mastery Facebook page as much as I can, but because there's hundreds every single day, I obviously can't get to all of them. So feel free to do a little at Mark Hemmings Photography, and I'm more than happy to check out your photos that you do post on the Digital Camera Mastery online course page. By the way, what Cinderbug is talking about is my course, Digital Camera Mastery, has a Facebook page, and there's like tens of thousands of people on it. And I struggle to keep up, but I do try. I do put time in every day to go through all the photos that the students do, and they're quite amazing. And anyway, my online courses can be found at markhemmings.com, and that one that she's referring to is Digital Camera Mastery. Okay, excellent. So this is very convenient, everybody. We have ended the questions. There's usually quite a few more that pop in after I stop. So I will say goodbye. Pam, I'm going to take your last question, then I'm going to wave bye to everybody. I want to take the opportunity to thank you. Your tutorials are very insightful. I've only finished Module 3, but I've learned a lot. Pam, the same thing with you. I wanted to say is that when you're on the Digital Camera Mastery online course Facebook page, if you ever need any help, just do at Mark Hemmings Photography, and I'll be able to see that much easier. Okay, Yusuf. It says most of Africa uses PAL. Okay. And CCAM. Oh, right. I've heard about CCAM. Morocco and North Asia has CCAM. Europe and South Asia and most of Africa and South America use PAL. And finally, NTSC is for all America. Yeah, it may be some weird rule that that Canon was forced to only do PAL for you in Morocco. Okay, Boris Tachava, thank you, my friend, for that. I appreciate that. All the best, everybody. I plan to come back tomorrow at 1 p.m. By the way, if there's ever any situation where I can't go online, you know, who knows? Maybe something came up and I had to look after a family thing or something, then you won't see on my Instagram or Facebook my little indication that I'm going live, and it'll just won't be there. And hopefully that will be enough indication. Okay, bye everybody. God bless. Have a great day. Talk soon.